What's good, everybody? It's the Clown with Cam Show. NFL Week 16, some big games. I'm going to go with the Thursday night game. I'm going to go Jacksonville over the New York Jets. Like I said, I've been on Jacksonville for a while. I've always believed in Trevor Lawrence. I just think what he's got going on in Jacksonville, there's something to prove, and I think they can really squeak in, win their conference, and get into the playoffs this year. I really do. And like I said, Trevor Lawrence this year, 24 touchdowns, only 7 interceptions. I mean, he's been balling out, and I understand he had a bad rookie season. Even Peyton Manning had a bad rookie season. Now look at Peyton, a Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl winning champion. He's a freaking legend. Shout out to Peyton Manning, but I'm telling you what, the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to go into New York, and they're going to win in a close one. I think they're going to win by a game-winning field goal or a touchdown, somewhere around that. And then, they got playmakers. Christian Kirk, he's been balling out all year, 966 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. He's a straight dog. He's a dog. You got Entity Jr. He's a dog as well. Over 900 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. When I say dog, that means he's a beast. Like, he's a dog. He's got the dog in him. Like, he never gives up. He's willing to go the extra mile no matter what. And that's what Jacksonville's doing right now. They're going the extra mile. We saw in the overtime game against the Dallas Cowboys. And I even called the upset alert game. I love hitting the upset alerts. I really do. Now, on the flip side, the Jets, they're going to go with Zach Wilson again. 6 touchdowns, 6 picks this year. Mike White, he's out, kind of banged up right now. I just don't know about the Jets right now. I mean, they played pretty great, against the Detroit Lions, but they just came up short. But I'm going to go the Jags here. I think Trevor Lawrence has something to prove, and this is a huge game for both teams. A big win right here could really lead them to get in the playoffs. Really, though. But, for Garrett Wilson, he's the X factor for the Jets. 966 yards receiving in 4 touchdowns. Garrett Wilson at Ohio State. I can't believe I snagged him off the waivers. I really can't. He's just a dog, man. He really is. So I like the Jets, but you know what? I'm going to Jacksonville Jaguars in New York. I like it on Thursday Night Football. 36.5 is the over/under. Or 36 is the over/under. I go with the over here. I think Jacksonville's going to put up points, and I think the Jets are going to put up points. It might start off slow, but I like the over in this one. I really do. I think it's going to go over, but I like the Jacksonville Jaguars over the New York Jets on this Thursday Night Football game. And then we got the Buffalo Bills versus the Chicago Bears. The Buffalo Bills are 9-point favorites here. I'm going to go Bills. I just think the Bears right now, they're one-dimensional, and all they have is Justin Fields. And I just think they need to surround Justin Fields with better players. They really do. I mean, Justin Fields been balling out all year, though. 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, over 1,000 yards rushing. Actually, 1,000 yards exactly rushing and 8 touchdowns. I mean, Justin Fields, he's a baller, dude. Now, I kind of feel bad for him because it's like, what is Chicago doing to help him out? What receivers do they have in Chicago? I mean, can you guys name 3 receivers in Chicago? Like, please tell me. Mooney? I mean, who else do they have? Like, it's crazy, but I'm going Buffalo here, and it starts with Josh Allen. I think the Buffalo Bills are legit, and they have a great chance of making the Super Bowl this year. And it starts with Josh Allen. 30 touchdowns, 11 picks, 705 yards rushing, and 6 rushing touchdowns. And his favorite target, Stephon Diggs, 1,299 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns. I think it's all Bills here. And I feel like right now the Bills mojo, just their whole vibe, just the whole chemistry right now is that chip on your shoulder. I have something to prove here. We have something to prove as a team, as an organization. That's who the Buffalo Bills are right now. Okay, like let's go way back in history. Buffalo, they lost 4 Super Bowls, dude. Lost all 4. That is insane to me. So I think the Buffalo Bills can turn it around with Josh Allen, and they're doing it. So this is a big game for both teams. But the Bears, they're done. They're out of it. So I'm gonna go Buffalo Bills all day. I'd even go money line with the safer pick. You're probably not gonna get as much for your buck, but definitely that's the safer bet is Bills money line. But I still like the 9 points. I'll still go 9. 40.5 is the over-under. I'd probably go with the over. A lot of these games are really low to me. I understand it's colder weather, all this. They run the ball more, but no, Buffalo, they will throw it no matter what the conditions are. So I'm going to go Buffalo. I'll go with the over as well. Go Buffalo Bills over the trash Chicago Bears. And then we got the New Orleans Saints versus the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are 2.5-point favorites. Look, for the Saints, they kind of have something going. And I will give a little shout out to Andy Dalton. Even though I do think overall he's a subpar quarterback, leaning towards a trash quarterback, but this year he's been playing pretty well. 17 touchdowns, 7 picks this year, and I just think the whole team for the New Orleans Saints has to do better. Not just the quarterback position, the running back position with Kamara, the receivers, Olave, all these guys, man, they got to perform, and I just think they're coming up short week after week, even though they did beat Atlanta last week, but it was nothing surprising. So I'm going to go Cleveland Browns here at 2.5 at home with Deshaun Watson, who had a decent game last week against the Ravens, 161 yards passing and 1 touchdown, and I think the run game's the X factor for Cleveland to win this game, and that starts with Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, 1,252 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. I mean, a straight baller. For fantasy-wise, he is a scoop no matter what, dude. He's a top 5 running back year in and year out for fantasy, dude. He's got to be. Nick Chubb is on that list. Shout out to Nick Chubb. And then Amari Cooper, 7 touchdowns this year, been in and out. Yeah, and I can see why Dallas released him, but he just wasn't doing the most in Dallas. He just really wasn't. I mean, he came up a couple times in big games, but it was like, man, I thought Amari Cooper was going to be way better than what he was in Dallas. So I think this is his time to turn it around. But I like Cleveland here, and I think Deshaun Watson, this is his game to really showcase himself, to say, hey, all that stuff that happened in the past, that's behind me right now. I'm going to forget it and focus in on football here. So I expect Deshaun Watson to have about 3 touchdown passes here, have a great game. So I'll go Cleveland at 2.5. 32 is the over-under. I mean, these over-unders are so small, dude. I got to go over, man. 32? Really, dude? I still got to go over. I really do, but I like the Cleveland Browns at 2.5 over the Saints. And then we got the Houston Texans versus the Tennessee Titans. Titans are 4.5-point favorites here. Titans are on a 4-game losing streak. And Titans right now, they might just let it go. I mean, they lose a couple more games. They're done. They play Jacksonville the last game of the season. So that's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen, develop in that conference with the Indianapolis Colts. We already know my Colts are done. They're done for. But I just think for the Titans, it's just like I'm looking at Ryan Tannehill in the offense. It's just one-dimensional. It's been one-dimensional since they got Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry, the load's all on Derrick Henry. 1,303 yards rushing and 12 touchdowns. I mean, what more do you want from Derrick Henry? Like, seriously, what more? Like, what does he have to do more, dude? Derrick Henry's carrying the whole team right now. And I think Ryan Tannehill needs to take responsibility and say, hey, this is what I need to do better. I need to throw the ball down the field better. I need to throw more, 20 to 30-yard passes instead of little dump-offs here and there. It's just like, dude, we got to make some plays here. Tennessee, dude, is not looking good. In the Houston Texans right now, Davis Mills, 13 touchdowns, 12 picks. Dameon Pierce, he's on the IR with that ankle injury. That's going to be devastating for the Houston Texans. I mean, part of me wants to go Texans because what I've seen from Tennessee lately is terrible, dude. It's absolutely terrible, but it's what I expected from Tennessee. They're a run-good team, but that's about it. They can't stop the throw. They can't do much on offense with Tannehill, so it's like, what stack 9-10 in the box and stop Derrick Henry. That's the go-to. But, I want to go Houston, but I just can't. So I'm going to go Tennessee at home. I just think, this is an upset alert game. Absolutely. But for Tennessee right now, you're on a 4-game losing streak. You can't lose to the worst team in the NFL right now. You cannot afford that at all. So I'm going to go Tennessee. They have a lot to play for. 36 is the over-under. I mean, I'd probably lean more towards the under in this one. I really would, even though I could see Tennessee dropping 25, 24, somewhere around there. But I'll go with the under, and I'll go Tennessee at 4.5 over the trash Houston Texans. And then we got the Seattle Seahawks versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are 10-point favorites in this matchup. I'm going to go Kansas City. I'll probably go money line, though. That's a safer bet. But I just think for Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City, we saw last week, an overtime game against the Texans. And it really wasn't a good game for the Kansas City Chiefs. It just wasn't. They were off. I just think the chemistry, the flow on offense was off. And I think Patrick Mahomes right now, I think this is his game to really break out right here and say, look, I am Patrick Mahomes. I do believe I'm the MVP right now. 35 touchdowns, 11 picks. His boy, Travis Kelce, 1,144 yards receiving and 12 touchdowns. So I think it's going to be Kansas City. And they got the run game going. So I like Kansas City, even though Seattle, they got Kenneth Walker back. Geno Smith's not had a bad year. 26 touchdowns, 8 picks. Tyler Lockett, 964 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns. Like I said, and Kenneth Walker, 9 touchdowns. He's been banged up with the ankle, so I don't think he's 100% right now. So I think for fantasy-wise, I have him on my fantasy squad. Should have sat him last weekend. I mean, this wouldn't be a bad weekend to start him, but I just think for Seattle, it's just like, what do they have? You know what I'm saying? Like, what difference makers? Yes, they have Metcalf, and I kind of feel for Metcalf because They really haven't surrounded him with better quarterbacks. Not to dog on Geno Smith. He's had a good season, but just overall, they need a young quarterback in Seattle, just like they do in Indy. So I think that's what Pete Carroll's going to work on this offseason. But I like Kansas City at home. 49.5 is the over-under. I'd probably go with the under. I really would. I think Kansas City's going to put up a lot of points. I just don't seeing Seattle put up a lot of points like that. So I like Kansas City. I'll go with the under, and I'll take the 10, even though I told you guys to go money line Kansas City for the guaranteed hit. I like Kansas City. And then we got the New York Giants versus the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are 4-point favorites. Look, I'm going to go Minnesota here. I mean, they just came back for the biggest deficit in NFL history, down 33 points against my Indianapolis Colts, and I think they got all the momentum right now. I mean, if you're Minnesota, this would be the game to bet on, dude. Why would you bet against them, dude? They were just down 33 and came back and won the game in overtime. Like, we can't make this up, dude. Kirk Cousins, 24 touchdowns, 11 picks. Dalvin Cook, over 1,000 yards rushing and 8 touchdowns. And then Justin Jefferson, I think the best receiver in the league right now. Over 1,600 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. I just think for the Giants, man, they have a solid defense. I will give them that, and they have a great run game. But I just don't trust Daniel Jones to lead you guys anywhere. You know, even the playoffs. I just don't see it for the Giants. I mean, Saquon Barkley, over 1,000 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns. I mean, that's basically all they have in New York right now is Saquon. They need a new quarterback. They need a new system in there because, you know, if you're Minnesota right now, you're stacking against Saquon. Don't let Saquon beat you. Okay, that's the game plan on defense. Where I think the offense for Kirk Cousins and them, they're clicking right now. I mean, we saw in the second half against Indianapolis, it was just like, how is this happening? How are they coming back down 33? This is unreal. It's crazy, but I'm going to go Minnesota. I'll take the 4. 48 is the over-under. That's a little tricky line right there. I don't even know what to select on that one. I'd probably go with the over. I really would. At home, Minnesota's looking nice. Put up a lot of points with Kirk Cousins. So I'm going to go Minnesota at 4 over the New York Giants. And then we got the Cincinnati Bengals versus the New England Patriots in New England. So this is going to be a nice game. If we look at Cincinnati right now, they're 3-point favorites. And I'm going to go Cincinnati. Why? Because we look at Cincinnati, they're 10-4. In the first 2 games of their season, they lost, dude. So they lost their first 2, and they said, hey, let me flip the script. I am Joe Burrow. We were just in the Super Bowl. There's no reason that we should lose the first 2 games, which they did, and they bounced back. Now they're 10-4, and they're looking really nice. Joe Burrow, 31 touchdowns, 10 picks, and then you got Joe Mixon, 722 yards rushing and 6 touchdowns. T. Higgins, he is questionable with that hamstring injury. I would probably sit him, save him for the playoffs. And then you got his favorite target, Jamar Chase, 8 touchdowns, 881 yards receiving. I think it's all Cincy here. I could see Cincinnati starting off slow, but I think it's Cincinnati. I just, for the Patriots, they're a solid defensive team, but offensively, I've just never been sold on Mac Jones. 7 touchdowns, 8 picks. I mean, you're throwing more interceptions than touchdowns here, and yet you're the starter. I don't know what Coach, the great Bill Belichick, is thinking because I just don't see it in Mac Jones. Even when he was in college, he was a good college quarterback in a great system with Nick Saban, one of the best college coaches we've ever seen. He was just in a great system, and he did the right things. But this is the NFL. You got to do more than just the right things, okay? You got to make the big plays in the big moments, and Mac Jones isn't that guy. Yes, they do have Stevenson. He's been balling out, 5 touchdowns, 914 yards rushing. I can see the Patriots getting the run game going at home, but I'm going Bengals at 3. I think, you know, I understand I'm going a lot of the favorites this week, which it just makes sense to me right now. I can see a lot of upsets as well, but I'm going Cincinnati. You know, what I saw from them last week, you're going in New England, you're 10-4, you want to become 11-4, you don't want to lose this game and be 10-5, so I think the Bengals, a lot's at stake for them. Same thing with the Patriots, but I'm betting on the better team here and the better quarterback, and that's Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll take the 3 points. 41.5 is the over-under. I'll probably go with the under, but I definitely like the Cincinnati Bengals over the New England Patriots. I can't wait for this game. And then we got the Detroit Lions versus the Carolina Panthers. It's in Carolina. Look, I'm going Detroit Lions as well, man. They're on a winning streak. The last 7 games, they are 6-1. And the loss they had to was on Thanksgiving against Buffalo Bills, which they should have really won that game. They had opportunities to win that game, but shout out to the Detroit Lions, man. They're battling back. This is like the definition of never giving up, dude. And Detroit's never gave up. They were 1-6 in their first 7 games. Now they're 6-1, dude. They flipped the script. And it starts with Jared Goff. 23 touchdowns, 7 picks. Jamal Williams, 839 yards rushing and 14 touchdowns. Been balling out. St. Brown, 974 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns. I think it's all Lions here. We look at the Carolina Panthers. Yes, they got DJ Moore. He's nice. 678 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. Sam Darnold last week against Pittsburgh, 225 yards passing and a touchdown. I mean, the Panthers play solid. They're well coached, but I'm going on Detroit Lions here. I think Detroit Lions have all the momentum right now. They're one of the hottest teams in the NFL, and they're a dangerous team. Let me tell you, if they get in the playoffs this year, the Detroit Lions are very dangerous, dude. I never thought I would say that because I always called Detroit trash, rubbish, but let me tell you, there's a different mojo about them right now, a different vibe, a different culture with the Detroit Lions, and I believe in that. So I'm going to go Detroit Lions in a close one. 44 is the over-under. I probably lean more towards the over because I think the Lions are going to score at will here. I think it starts with Jared Goff, get the run game going with Williams. I'm going Detroit Lions at 2.5 over the Carolina Panthers. And then we have the Atlanta Falcons versus the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are 7.5-point favorites. Look, this to me, this is a little bit too much. 7.5 is too much. Lamar Jackson is out yet again. I think Lamar will be back before the playoffs. I'm hoping. Because without Lamar, we know the Baltimore Ravens are nothing, dude. They're not going to make the playoffs. And even if they do without Lamar, they're not going anywhere. They need Lamar back at 100%. Tyler Huntley is back. Last week he had 138 yards passing into interceptions versus the Cleveland Browns. Even though KJ Dawkins, he's been balling out, dude. Dobbins, he's been balling out. 125 yards rushing, dude, against the Browns last week. And then Mark Andrews, over 700 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. To me, I got to go Ravens at home. With Coach John Harbaugh, the champion he is, I'm going Ravens, but I'm going to go money line Ravens. I think the 7.5 is too much without Lamar. Even though Atlanta right now, their quarterback change with Desmond out of Cincinnati. And then you got Tyler Allinger, over 700 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Drake London, 4 touchdowns, a nice receiver, over 600 yards receiving. Even though he did have a fumble last game, he's on my fantasy squad. I was upset. But the Ravens, you're in Baltimore. I think this is a must-win game for the Baltimore Ravens and Coach John Harbaugh. So you know what? I'm going to go Baltimore Ravens money line, even without Lamar. I just think Lamar has to be back by the end of the year, or else they're really screwed. So I'm going to go Baltimore Ravens over Atlanta in a super close one, about a three-point game. 37.5 is the over-under. Go with the under on this game without Lamar, so I'm going Baltimore Ravens over Atlanta Falcons. And then we got the Washington Commanders versus the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers are 7-point favorites. They're on a 7-game winning streak, and we can safely say that the San Francisco 49ers are the hottest team in the NFL right now. But I do think this is an upset alert game for Washington here because Washington, they have really not a lot to lose, and they got Taylor Heinicke who's been balling out. Terry McLaurin's been balling out, over 1,000 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. And then you got Brian Robinson Jr., 652 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. I just think, but, part of me wants to say the Washington, but I'm going San Francisco here. 7-game winning streak. I just think right now, Brock Purdy, dude, he is a beast, man. The most recent game, 217 yards passing and 2 touchdowns versus Seattle. I mean, he's going to get tested in the playoffs. Come playoff time, Brock will get tested. The last pick in the NFL draft for this year, which is crazy to think. And then you got Christian McCaffrey, one of the best running backs in the league, 534 yards of rushing and 4 touchdowns. Then you got George Kittle with 6 touchdowns, about 600 yards receiving. And then dude, there's just so many weapons on San Francisco. Even though they're out with Deebo Samuel right now, which I do think he will be back before the playoffs with that high ankle injury and I think a knee injury as well. But they definitely do need Deebo if they want to win a Super Bowl. Absolutely. I mean, you got Deebo McCaffrey, Brandon, you got George Kittle, and then Brock Purdy. The way he's playing, dude, he's been playing the best out of any quarterback on San Francisco. Better than Jimmy G, 100%, dude. I really believe that. So I'm going San Francisco in San Francisco. 38 is the over-under. I'll probably go with the over. I think San Francisco is going to score a lot of points here. And I think the X factor is Brock Purdy on the same page with George Kittle, Brandon, and McCaffrey, with his whole staff on the same page. And I think he has been ever since he became starter. He had something to prove, a chip on their shoulder. San Francisco's on a mission. I'm telling you what, the 49ers, dude, they are a scary team right now. I'm going San Francisco. I'll take the 7 points. I think McCaffrey's going to have a crazy game this weekend. So obviously start McCaffrey on your fantasy squad. San Francisco over the Washington Commanders all day. And then we got the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are 4.5-point favorites. I'm going to go Dallas. Why? Because Jalen Hurts is out with that right shoulder sprain, which is smart. They got Minshew starting. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if, Philly does win anyway without Jalen Hurts. But I just think losing Jalen Hurts right now is crucial for the Philadelphia Eagles. He was on the same page with with Miles Sanders and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown over 1,200 yards receiving and 10 touchdowns, dude. A.J. Brown's been snapping off all year. And then Miles Sanders, 1,110 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns. And then Jalen Hurts, 22 touchdowns, 5 picks. He's out. So I think I'm going Dallas here. I just think for Philly, it's not the end of the world right now. I think it's smarter to rest Jalen Hurts. You guys are already in the playoffs. You're going to get that first round bye. You just need another win in the next couple weeks. But I love Dallas here. I think Dak Prescott has something to prove here, dude. 17 touchdowns, 11 picks. Obviously, it wasn't Dak's fault that he picked 6 for the loss last week in Jacksonville. It wasn't his fault. It was the receiver's fault. CeeDee Lamb over 1,000 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns. And then you have Tony Pollard, 969 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns, dude. Tony Pollard is a straight dog right now. He's really taking the position over Zeke right now. So I think the combo backs are great for Dallas. But for Dallas, you got to win this game without Jalen Hurts on the other side. You got to. If you guys lose to Philadelphia twice and one without Jalen Hurts, that's just not a good look. And it's right before playoffs. And like I said, it's the same story with the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, what are we going to say? What's the excuse going to be if you guys lose again in the playoffs this year? What is it? What's the excuse going to be? I just want to know. Just plan for it in advance. But I'm going the Dallas Cowboys. I think Dak Prescott, they have something to prove, and this is a division game here. Without Jalen Hurts, this is the time to capitalize. So I'm going Dallas Cowboys at 4.5. 47 is the over-under. I'll probably go with the under, but I like the Cowboys over the Philadelphia Eagles in a close one because Jalen Hurts is out. Now, if Jalen Hurts was in, I'd go Philly all day, but I like the Cowboys at 4.5. And then we got the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh's 2.5-point favorite in Pittsburgh. For the Las Vegas Raiders, their defense is trash, dude. Giving up over 24 points a game. It's pathetic, dude. Derek Carr, 23 touchdowns, 11 picks. Josh Jacobs, 1,495 yards rushing and 11 touchdowns. And then you got Devontae Adams, over 1,200 yards receiving and 12 touchdowns. Part of me wants to go Las Vegas Raiders, but it's just like their defense is so trash. They need to draft defensive players in this draft. Draft a couple offensive linemen as well. Maybe another receiver, but I think they got to go defense if you're the Raiders. You got to. But now Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett, I don't know if he's going to be back with the concussion. He's had 2 already. They do need Kenny Pickett. If Kenny Pickett's going to start, I think I will go with Pittsburgh. And then you got Najee Harris. He's the X factor here. 6 touchdowns this year, 790 yards rushing. I think the run game is crucial for Pittsburgh. If you guys cannot run the ball, I think the Raiders are going to take it here in a close one. And just the way the Raiders won last weekend against the New England Patriots, I'm going to go Raiders with the upset here in Pittsburgh. I think it's going to be a close one, but I think the Raiders are going to win by another crazy sequence that just happened last week. So I'm going to go Raiders. I think Derek Carr's going to have a breakout game, and I think Devontae Adams is the X factor for the Raiders, and it's a mismatch for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm going Raiders with the upset over the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Arizona Cardinals. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 6.5-point favorites. They're on a 2-game losing streak. But the good news is for the Tampa Bay is you're playing Arizona, who's on a 4-game losing streak. They're without Kyler Murray. And, they're just banged up right now. They're starting a quarterback I never heard of before. Yes, they do have playmakers like DeAndre Hopkins with 713 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. James Conner, 6 touchdowns, over 600 yards rushing. But I don't think it's enough, man. I really don't. I'm going to go Tampa Bay at 6.5. I think this is the game to win if you're Tom Brady, dude. You're going against the Arizona Cardinals, who are banged up right now. They're not 100%. You got to win this game. If you guys lose this game, we know that even if you do make the playoffs, because you're in the worst division in the NFL right now, it's not going to mean anything because you're going to lose the first game. So I think right now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have something to prove here. Their defense has to step up. Tom Brady has to step up with 20 touchdowns, 7 picks. Mike Evans, 888 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. Chris Godwin, 785 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. So I'm going to go Tampa Bay over Arizona. I mean, if Tampa Bay loses this game, I wouldn't be surprised because they're both playing terrible. But overall, I got to go Tampa, dude. Tom Brady has something to prove here. You're playing for the playoff position, a playoff spot, dude, to get in. To get the chance to get another ring, his 8th ring, which would be crazy. But I'm going Tampa Bay over Arizona. 41 is the over-under. Probably lean more towards the under, but I definitely like the Bucs over Arizona in this matchup. And then we got the Green Bay Packers versus the Miami Dolphins. Miami's 4-point favorites. Look, I'm going to go Miami in Miami. Right now, Miami are on a little losing streak. Tua, 24 touchdowns, 5 picks. Tyreek Hill, 1,529 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns. I just think overall, man, Miami's the better team right now. Aaron Rodgers, 23 touchdowns, 10 picks. Aaron Jones, 937 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Alan Lazard, 627 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. Yes, Green Bay has some pieces, but I just think they're missing a lot right now. I mean, they got Randall Cobb, the veteran, with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this could be an upset alert game. I just don't see it right now. I see Miami winning this game. If you're Miami, you gotta win this game. The way your season started, you were 3-0, and then Tua got hurt a couple games here and there, but now you're back here. You're playing at home in Miami in the nice weather. You're not in Lambeau Field. There's no excuse, so I'm going to go Miami at 4. I think Tua's going to have a breakout game. I'll take it. I'll take Miami at 4. 49 is the over-under. I'll probably lean more towards the over. I think Miami's going to put up a lot of points, and I expect Aaron Rodgers and Green Bay to put up a lot of points, but I definitely like Miami at 4 over the Green Bay Packers at home. And then we got the Denver Broncos versus the LA Rams. Both teams are trash. Both of them are 4-10. Both of them are irrelevant right now. They're not going to make the playoffs. It's kind of sad for LA fans because you just won the Super Bowl. Now you're out, dude. You're not even going to make the playoffs. Not even going to have the opportunity to repeat. That's crazy to me. Baker last week versus Green Bay, 111 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Cam Akers this year, 4 touchdowns, 441 yards rushing. I'm going to go Rams here. Why am I going Rams? Because they're playing at home. Simple as that. Both these teams don't mean shit right now because, like I said, they're out of the playoffs, so it doesn't matter. But I'll go Rams in a close one over the trash Denver Broncos. And then we got the LA Chargers versus the Indianapolis Colts. We know my Indianapolis Colts blew a 33-point lead, most ever in NFL history. Dude, it's sad, man. It's sad, but the good news is we're finally starting Nick Foles. I just want to know, why is it so late? Why didn't the Indianapolis Colts organization say, hey, let's start Nick Foles at week 8. Let's start him halfway through the season here, and let's be smart about this instead. Let's start him when we know we're not going to make the playoffs this year. It just don't make sense to me. It just does. I just feel like the Indianapolis Colts organization in the past 10 years, nothing's made sense to me. Nothing, except getting Jonathan Taylor. That made sense to me. Other than that, nothing. Okay? But I'm going to go LA Chargers here. I'm going to bet with my mind and not my heart. I'm going to go Chargers. Justin Herbert, 21 touchdowns, 9 picks. Austin Eckler, 692 yards rushing and 9 touchdowns. Josh Palmer balling out, over 700 yards receiving and 3 touchdowns. And then you got Mike Williams, 693 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns. I think the Chargers are just too much right now. Offensively, it's a mismatch for the banged-up Colts defense. And I'm looking at the Indianapolis Colts and thinking, dude, we need a quarterback. We need more pieces for the future right now because what we're doing right now is we're a bottom 3 team in the NFL. That's the Indianapolis Colts. It's sad to me, dude. It really is. Nothing makes sense right now with the Indianapolis Colts. So why would I take the Indianapolis Colts in this game on Monday Night Football? It'd just be ignorant and silly to do that. So I'm going to go LA Chargers. I'd love to see my Indianapolis Colts win, but really it doesn't mean much anymore. Jonathan Taylor's out until next year, which is really smart because we're not playing for a playoff spot anymore. Okay, it's over for the Colts, dude. We need a quarterback. We need a new program, dude. We need new players. We need new coaches. And I don't want to give up on Coach Jeff Saturday. I think he deserves a 1-year contract, at least pan it out for next year, because I think the Colts are just so quick to change. Even when we had Carson Wentz, it was like, 1 year done, okay, let's change. Even though they had 2 games to win the last game of the season to make the playoffs, and they lost last 2 last year. And then we just wanted to move on. I just think we got to be patient with the Colts, but, it's been about 12, 13 years since we released Payne and said, you know what, we're going to go our own way. And ever since Payne has left, the Indianapolis Colts have been irrelevant, dude. We haven't been good, dude, since. So I'm going to go LA Chargers in this one, but what a weekend for the NFL. Week 16, another huge weekend. There's some upset alert games, absolutely. I just think overall, man, I like a lot of the favorites this week. I like Kansas City for sure, and I like Buffalo Bills and Chicago for sure, but I'd say my upset alert game I wouldn't even call it an upset, but I like Jacksonville in the Thursday night game over the New York Jets, baby. It's the NFL. It's the Cloud with Cam show. Let's go!